Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 180 of the Peak of Serenity podcast. I am, as always, one of your hosts, Emerson, and joining me, we have my co-host, Anomaly.
Hello.
And this week, Tree Raid's out. We,
All I've been doing.
yeah, I mean, that and Mythic Plus, it's kind of the week. Like that, Mythic Plus, work, sleep, you know.
Exactly.
Um, So that's going to be the main thing that we're talking about today is the race to world first. Obviously going on right now. They are chain wiping on Tindril. Turns out that boss is... I don't even know what the right word for that is. Uh,
Rough,
rough.
difficult,
Yeah.
annoying. Lots of don't do the mechanic and you die immediately. It's
Yeah.
always fun.
I mentioned a few of these things in my notes about it when we talked
Yeah.
about PTR testing of Mythic Tindril.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Yeah. But we also, obviously, both of us have set foot in the raid at this point. We can talk about our own progression.
Mhm.
And why don't we just, you mentioned like maybe we just talk about our progression in the context of the race. You want to
Yeah.
jump into like kind of how the race has gone so far?
Yeah, we can. Yeah. I mean, it was I think the race is gone how we expected. They spent literally what 3 full days in splits and Mythic Plus. At least the World First Guilds did. But interestingly, we saw I think instant dollars make a ton of progress. Like I think they were what 6 of 9 by the time Liquid stepped in.
Yeah.
Um, so they crushed the early bosses, which is interesting because it's funny. Um, Looking at progression, it seems like first boss very cool. Not as big of a pushover as I think we thought, but it's a cool boss. Second boss significantly harder. Almost like an early wall, we'll say.
Yeah.
But then you get to Volacross, and that was one shot by ID and literally everyone else behind them,
Yeah.
which is just wild. But no, it seems like the first really like 6 bosses, kind of pushovers for most of the world first guilds. Boss 7, Smolderon, a little bit of trouble. What was Liquid at? Like slightly over 100 pulls, I want to say, or just around there.
Yeah. I
Um,
can pull up the exact number.
um,
Method got it in 95. Echo got it in 53.
oh,
And I gotta scroll down to find Liquid. Because they killed it. They killed it first. They've been
yeah.
pushed off the leaderboard like updates. Liquid got it in 57.
Okay, so a lot less than I thought. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
I was looking at Method's number and thought that was similar. But yeah, so a first little mini wall. That one was an interesting boss because I know Liquid ran into a bug with the orbs.
Yeah.
When they were honest, they spent I think probably a solid like 2-3 hours in Mythic Plus while they waited for the bug to get resolved, and then went back in. But yeah, it's been interesting. A lot class balance, very interesting, we'll say.
That's
Um,
a word.
yeah, a lot of BM hunters out of the blue, crushing.
I
Lots
don't
of rogues.
I I don't know that any like BM
BM hunt
Hunter was going to be the best spec in the game.
not on my bingo list or bingo card at all.
Yeah, if you were looking at the numbers people were posting from PTR stuff, BM Hunter was the best spec in the game. It still
Yeah.
is like arguably the best spec in the game. It's actually kind of wild the rehabilitation of specifically Beast Mastery Hunter. Like obviously Beast Mastery is a range spec, but almost exclusively instant casts. You can
Mhm.
opt into like one singular cast time spell in Wailing Arrow if you have a need for it. It's not part of most people's builds. Um, but previously, BM Hunter was good but one note, like strong defensives, which was
Yep.
not historically the case. It used to be weak. They got a bunch with the new talent trees. Now it's strong. But they were one note. You could either do really good sustained single target on a single
Mhm.
target without switching, or you could do really good sustained AoE and completely different talent builds, so you couldn't do both at the same time.
Yeah.
Now they have great burst AoE, great burst single target, just superb single target damage across the board, and they can have all of that while playing the single target build, basically.
Exactly.
You trade off a little bit of the AoE to get the single target stuff, but like It's just phenomenal.
Yeah. No, they did. They're doing very well, and it's funny too. The other side of this too is we see a resurgence of melee specs. Like there's enhancements
Yeah,
shamans, there's rogues, DHs, a feral I think has been,
yeah.
and a lot of
There is
like
currently a
harder.
feral druid in Liquid's comp for Tindral
Yeah,
Mythic.
yeah. So I mean, it's very not as I mean I don't know if we had an opinion on if it was a bad melee raid, but a lot more melee I'll say than I
Yeah,
was expecting. Like typically you're limited to like five, and I think both Liquid and Echo are running something like, well, I think Echo's running a couple less, but Liquid's running 7 melee
yeah.
DPS characters. Um,
There's a few things in this fight or in these fights that try and pick ranged and melee DPS specifically if you have enough of each. So like Volcaros is an early example of this. The circles that go on people that are group soaks on Mythic. If you have enough ranged and melee on each side,
mhm.
then you will get one in melee and one in ranged every time, which kind of makes it a lot easier to do. Like you have your melee pile and your ranged pile, and your melee helps soak the melee one, and the ranged helps soak the ranged one, and everything's chill.
Yeah,
Um, and so, but that only works if you have like 10 total melee out of 20 people, right?
yeah,
Including tanks and melee healers like Mistweaver. So
yeah, yeah. No,
yeah,
it's definitely an interesting raid in terms of who they're bringing, at least class wise. So, and yeah, and then we can extend this even to like healers. Like, I think every guild in the top 10 is running pretty much a similar comp of like Mistweaver, Holy Paladin, double disc. I think we knew disc was going to be strong at the top end.
yeah,
Um, Holy Paladin always going to be there. To me, Mistweaver, I mean, a little biased. I thought Mistweaver was strong enough to be in these comps, but yeah, pretty much consistently across the board, you'll see a Mistweaver and Holy Paladin, at least one disc priest. I think there's a couple guilds up there. No, BDGG typically didn't run double discs. They only have the one disc person, so they've got
yeah.
a evoker, preservation evoker. I think in some of their comp stuff, but yeah, no, it's I mean, think healer wise, Mistweaver. I think if you didn't play Mistweaver, it's a slight surprise, but no, it's nice to see them up there. Um, it just kind of sucks because now my guild's like, why aren't you as good as you said you were, Anomaly? And I'm like, never said I was good. I'm just straight trash typically. But now they have some like world first people to compare me to. I look real bad. No, but I think it's cool to see like a little bit of a shakeup, and we'll say a single spot in the healer meta has changed since last week.
I mean, at least it's
So
not double Holy Paladin, double Disc Priest again.
yeah, or another shot, like another like year of shaman being in this stuff.
There
So
are some Resto Shamans showing up in here too. People were real doomers about Resto
yeah,
Shaman. I guess not so many in the world first comps. There are a bunch I was looking through comps for early mythic bosses. There are Resto Shaman kills.
yeah,
People were like, "Oh, Resto Shaman's dead. It's terrible," and yet people are still getting through the first several bosses with one. So can't be that bad.
yeah. No, yeah, it's been I think healer balance as we look across this tier will generally probably be considered pretty good. Um, I think disc now with like some of their rework and even their force set their set bonus is really strong this tier. So that is going to push them at the high end to be really good. I think it's for mid tier guilds probably not as crazy. Still requires some level of ability to play. But yeah, no, it seems
Yeah,
pretty good. Pretty good. So but cool. Yeah. So I mean, that's the race. I mean, it's been to be expected. Tons of splits the first couple of days. I think Liquid was saying like 30, they did 36 normals, and something like 30 plus or around 30-ish.
that's wild.
Yeah. Not, yeah, about 30-ish like normal or heroic runs or something. So yeah, it's
There's
like,
also
yeah.
like kind of on that note of all the splits, they buffed heroic Fyrek.
Dude, I'm so pissed about this.
Um, yeah, you get to experience the weekend raider pain now.
Oh,
Um,
dude.
yeah,
It was so here. The funny thing is, so this is the actual part that annoys me. Is so as a part of our own progress, like we basically started with normal, did 8 of 9 normal, didn't kill Fyrak on normal because sort of trying to min max slightly curios essentially, right?
okay,
So went 8 of 9 normal, and then went 6, didn't kill Smolderon, so went 6 of 9 heroic on Tuesday essentially. And then we're getting ready to go into Thursday raid because it's our second raid of the week. We knew we were probably going to flex Fyrak at some point, right? We knew we were going to get to both Fyrak kills unless we were going to do a flex day. So on Wednesday or on Thursday, we're like, well, let's start with Mythic, kill Gnarlroot since it seems like a slight pushover, like handful of pulls, and then go back into heroic and normal and clean it up. Literally, as we kill Gnarlroot and are starting into our heroic clear, the Fyrak buffs come out. I'm just like,
Yeah,
this is so stupid. Like,
yeah,
I get it. I mean, like what they buff, like looking at the actual buffs, I think there's only one of them that actually impacts the fight. Like the other buff, the way they did buff a couple abilities, I think
yeah,
the majority of the ones they did buff are like avoidable mechanic ones, where like you can avoid the damage present in that ability. So like it being buffed by 40% just means that like you have to play well,
yeah. You have to
which is
not get
fine.
hit by it, basically. So that's swirling firestorms. Are
Hmm.
they're just fire tornadoes. You don't. They buff the damage of them by 60%. Just don't get hit. Like
Yeah.
basically, they were like, well, you're not getting punished enough for getting hit by these avoidable mechanics. Up the punishment.
Hmm.
Blaze, same deal. Those are the Sylvanas lines on heroic Fyrak. Um, and then they buffed the only two changes that I think are actually impactful, like you said. Burning Scales damage increased by 40%. This is the
Hmm.
ticking raid damage while Fyrak is in dragon form. So this is during the first intermission. This is while he does his strafe runs on the platform. This is in phase 3. That raid damage is higher, significantly higher. I think people are like like on a 30-person raid of this encounter, they are doing 8 healers. It's a little
Yeah.
bit crazy. Then the last thing that I think is impactful is they added an additional occurrence of the blaze mechanic in phase 3.
Hmm.
Um, so phase 3 specifically, like you have these seeds that people pick up. They're like Halondrus bombs, and you need to carry them around and keep them alive in order to make it through the phase, and you can use one at a time to give you protection from one of the boss's abilities. Adding an extra set of blazes just makes it harder to keep them safe.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, so it's a weird midweek heroic buff because this came out Wednesday or Thursday evening, so it wasn't even
Mm-hmm.
like during the day on Thursday. It was like came out as we were raiding, like as we were killing Gnarlroot. Like this came out. So yeah, I mean I'm not exactly excited about this. I don't like this idea. Like this might have been something where if they did think Fire was a little too easy, buff it week 2, buff it at reset. Like I'm always for like reset changes, um but yeah, no, it sucks. Yeah, the weekend guild issue. So we're gonna go back in tonight for the flex stuff. So we'll have normal and heroic fire act to kill tonight. So we'll see how that goes. But the fight looks fun. I'm not excited about healing ads.
Yeah,
But we'll see.
yeah. We are also so we did we're officially three or I guess like 2.5 nights on week 1. We did a 2-hour raid on Wednesday to get through
Okay.
normal. We just did all of normal, and that includes Fyrak. And then
Hmm.
on Friday at our normal raid time, we went through the first 8 of heroic.
Okay, cool.
So what we have on the docket for tonight is heroic Fyrak, which I think we're tackling first.
Hmm.
Just because like the single biggest upgrade for like the team is getting those tier tokens
Yeah.
from the AOTC achievement. We have a few people that have gotten 2K IO from doing keys,
Hmm.
um, but far fewer than are actually on the team. So it's going to be like killing Heroic Fire is going to give like 20 people a tier set, right? A 2 set bonus,
Yeah.
which then makes Null and hopefully Agira. Like Agira is a little bit of a stretch, like you were mentioning earlier. Agira is a wall,
Yeah.
very
Like a
much an early
barrier.
wall. But it's also one where we were seeing like the level of gear that Liquid have, which is a lot higher than ours. Uh,
Yeah.
they were entirely skipping the final phase,
Yeah.
which you know that at least tells us that we will have the DPS to kill the boss. We just will probably have to do part or all of the last phase.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, I think that's the one fight where like the more gear you get, the easier it gets. But
Yeah,
yeah, no, we looked at that too because we were. I think our raid in general is at like four, still at like 450, like mid 450s. I want to say.
yeah, that's
So
around
still
where we
like
are.
yeah. So and then like they walk in at 470, 471, and you're just like,
Yeah,
dude, like 20 eye level, like 15 eye level. I mean,
yeah,
across the entire raid is just wild to me. So no, yeah, yeah, so we might do an extra mythic raid. I think Monday we were talking a little bit about it, depending on comps, just to sort of get a little bit ahead. But yeah, I think our goal tonight is Fyrek dead in normal and heroic. So we'll see. But the race seems fun. I mean, Tyndall seems like a fun fight. Like I thought just in general, my recap, like I thought I'd hate the dragon riding part of it, but I think it's fine. I know Mythic adds an additional piece of dragon riding. I don't
right.
know if that's going to be fine, but at least
Yeah.
on heroic it seems fine. The healing boss, so what is that? Laradar.
Well, one of
Um,
the two healing
one of
bosses.
the two healing bosses. Laradar, not that bad as a healing boss. I think it makes sense. I think it's helped by the fact that they put the ads in the boss frames,
Yes,
which I think is
absolutely.
super cool. I think it's also cool that like you get to clear more of the area the longer you keep those ads around. So the more health the ads can funnel,
Yeah,
the longer you can sort of make more room, which I think is cool. So that's a cool interaction. Um, I hate that my raid leader makes me do all the first clears with that thing. So I can't actually heal. I'm like running around spraying.
get wrecked.
I know it sucks. But no, I think in general there hasn't been a boss fight that I think I dislike. I just think for whatever reason, like Volcross, however you say that, Volocross, super uninteresting for where it is in the raid. Like it's like
Yeah,
a third, fourth boss. It's just it feels like almost I feel like Norroot more interesting
yeah.
than Volcross, like just in terms of positioning.
Volcross,
Norroot's a really cool first boss, so
Volcross is like, I mean, it's kind of clearly intended to be this "you must be this tall to proceed" kind of fight.
yeah.
Basically, everybody we've seen go through it so far has so much gear that
Hmm.
they obviously are. And like heroic for people that are at our level, completely trivial.
Yeah.
Like we didn't even get halfway around the platform or something. It was we had like a 3 minute kill.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
then on Mythic though, there's a real question of like, would we be able to make the DPS check with the gear that we have right now? And the answer is a resounding maybe, right?
Yeah.
Like if we go in and we kill Ihira, then like instant dollars killed Volcaros with less gear than Liquid or Echo because they didn't do that kind. They did some splits, but they did not do 30.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and they killed it with like 30 seconds left on the enrage.
It's pretty
So,
good.
are we as good as instant dollars? Probably not, but you know, that at least says maybe we could squeak into a kill at enrage. So it's
Yeah.
one of those things like for us, for me, like I'm doing a lot of prep after the podcast today to get stuff ready for tonight. Still
Hmm.
got to do healing cooldowns for Mythic and potentially do some revisions of our healing cooldowns for Heroic Firac.
Nice.
Um, but like the focus for us is primarily on getting Heroic Firac down. Like
Yeah.
if everybody's told me, oh, it won't be that bad. I'm not
No,
taking the
we've
bait.
I yeah, we've had a couple people play alts and like they did like normal fire rack. I think one did heroic and gave us some notes back and like
Yeah,
it's basically like what the notes that we got is like it's essentially everything's fairly easy until the final phase. And
yeah,
then the final phase where it ramps up and then it's like
right.
you have to play essentially a 5-6 minute fight. Or actually maybe they say 7, but like you play like a 6 minute fight to get to the hard part and
Yeah,
then you wipe.
yeah.
So like
And that's
that's the
like
nerve-wracking part for us, I think.
we're saving Bloodlust for the final phase.
Hmm.
For that reason, basically the notes that we got from friends of the guild is that the only reason to lust phase one is if you're not going to hit the 70% force push. Like when the boss hits 70% HP, he pushes out of phase one. So it's very similar to Sarkareth in that way, where like
Hmm.
Sarkareth, on heroic, it didn't really make sense to lust phase one because you were going to just hit that checkpoint
Yeah,
and
regardless.
force transition early.
Hmm.
Um, similar deal with Fyrak. So like on Mythic, you saw people lusting phase one because it was just like the best time to use it. Because
Hmm.
at the gear you were progressing it, you weren't going to force push the boss early. I know some people did by the end of farm, but not us. It was a very
Yeah.
high bar. And
Oh yeah.
I suspect Fyrak may be similar. You may still see a phase 3 less on Fyrak though, just because of how much phase 3 ramps up, like you were saying.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we'll definitely maybe next week talk a little bit about it because I haven't pulled even on normal Fire X. So um, yeah, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I'm excited to yeah, it's season's back, and then I mean, maybe we step away from the raid a little bit. I have done more Mythic Plus dungeons this season already than I did all of last season,
Oh
by
my
the way.
god.
So I think I've
You're
done something like
ramping.
yeah, which is like I think I've done maybe that's a lie. I think I did like I've done 25 or 26 dungeons already this
Wow.
season.
I don't know how many I've done.
Um, and it's actually so here's the problem. I'm having a good time, Emerson.
Oh
Like I'm having fun. I would say
my
other than
god.
the only so there's two dungeons and one of them is always going to be bad and one of them is going to depend on my tank. So
Okay.
one of the bad ones depends on the tank is Black or Cold,
Yep.
and it's that stupid spiral staircase with
Yep.
the spiders. And
Oh,
I
the
had a run.
spiders.
So I had a run where a tank was like, I'm just going to run to the top. Doesn't say anything. Gets 50 stacks of debuff and there's like heals and I'm like I dispelled you once halfway up when you had 30 and almost died and you kept going. Then you got another 50 and you fell over like and
Yeah.
he did it I'm not saying they did it twice. And so at that point I'm like, can we
Yeah.
just go slower? And
Yeah.
that was slightly annoying. But that's a tank issue. I think that was one of the runs. It was rough. But the gauntlet in Throne of the Tides is
Yeah.
absolutely horrid. Like horrid. Like I still don't know how to do it without like dying. Like I haven't been with a group and like I pugged a lot of Thrones actually. Didn't do too many guild runs in Throne, but like the only groups that I've seen do it well is like the ones where like they intentionally like kill the big guy, move to the next piece, kill the big guy. Like not other groups sort of just and we stay pretty tightly coupled so we don't pull extras in after we get
Yes.
past that part where they
Yes.
spawn. But yeah, most times it's like you get to like 18, 20, 30 stacks, hit revival, clears a debuff's great, or I'm just slamming dispel on cooldown,
Yeah.
like trying to keep people healthy. So yeah.
It's crazy. The I thought you were going to talk about the other staircase in Black Cold, the one with the bats.
Oh no, well, so to be fair, same tank also killed us there where they ran to the top and then
I
all the bags.
I've tried a few different things because running to the top was how I did it in
Yeah.
Legion. That's how you did it. But also, I think one of the differences between Legion and now is how powerful the free cleave was.
Yeah.
Like we're out of the target cap era, but everybody does like split cleave kind of deals.
Hmm.
Whereas in Legion, those bats just evaporated.
There was
Like
never any up. Yeah.
the thing you were concerned about was the big guys.
Yep.
You just needed to get the kicks on the Fell Frenzy and everything was fine. Um, that is not the world we live in anymore. Do not run to the top. Um,
No.
that one actually was really like that's the staircase that gives us trouble.
Oh, okay.
Because sick bats is unkickable, unstoppable, and the bats murder people. Like
Oh
if you
yeah.
get sick
No.
bats on a melee, they're dead.
Yeah. Yeah. Like
Um,
instantly turn and like just yeah. If you have any
yeah,
more than like even like 3 or 4 bats up, like
yeah,
the person's
and,
just
and
dead.
the
Like
the frequency that they spawn is just like not not very likely that they survive. So ranged have an easier time because ranged have the opportunity to run away.
exactly. Yeah.
So those ones we hit them with slows and binding shot and ring of frost and ring of peace and that kind of ability, and you can
Yeah.
play around the sick bats there. But if it goes on if it goes on the melee, like maybe they see it coming and they're a rogue and they can like harpoon or whatever it's called out,
Yeah.
uh
Yeah.
and maybe they can't. Who knows?
To be determined. Yeah, no, it's yeah, it's been fun. I mean, every dungeon I've done has been enjoyable. And I think honestly, I think it's probably because like Mistweaver as a healer in Mythic Plus has so many tools to deal with like the group taking a ton of damage
Yeah,
nowadays that like it's funny, like I didn't realize like having not played Shaylun's Gift a ton, which is the like the ability where you get like a cloud every couple seconds.
yeah,
But in Mythic Plus, you play not the choice node you take is the one where it makes the clouds spawn quicker. I didn't realize how fast it actually is, because like I would like get to 10, hit, heal the group from an ability, and then like maybe 30-ish seconds later be like, oh no, what am I going to use here? And look down and I have 10 stacks again. I'm like, well, I'm just going to top the group again. Like this is,
Yeah.
I'm straight chilling here.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been fun to play around like some of that stuff, which I did. I mean, to be fair, I sort of jumped out of Mythic Plus super early last season. So,
Yeah.
but I've been having a blast.
Yeah.
So.
I've been doing just an absolutely ridiculous amount of keys too. I wasn't sure what I was gonna play this tier
Mhm.
going into it, so I've probably done 40 keys, but it's split across 3 characters. Ended up
Nice.
deciding Thursday morning I'm just a blood main this tier. We have
Nice.
one of our healers is Mistweaver, and unless they gut it midway through the tier, like we're probably playing a Mistweaver on basically every boss, even if we had another physical debuff.
Yeah.
So it's just like also Mass Grip and Grabby Hands on Thyrek look really good.
Very good. Very good.
And Blood DK is built like it's just built. It you don't die.
Yeah.
In raid, you just don't die. It's you have to work so hard to die right now. Like at least
That's
in
awesome.
at least in Vault of the Incarnates, right? You only had Purgatory to rely on as like a cheat death, get out of jail free card. So if you were greedy and you purged, you could die. It was very practical to die. We have an actually good cheat death trinket. Probably the best cheat. Actually, we should maybe talk about that at a later point. But like, probably the best cheat death trinket that has ever been in the game.
Nice.
Just like when you trigger it, it heals you, just like full heals you.
Mm-hmm.
After giving you several seconds of immunity, you're stunned and rooted during the immunity, but like 2 seconds, like you're stunned, but you also don't take any damage.
Seems pretty good.
Then you get full healed,
Mm-hmm.
and like 10 seconds of 20% DR against whatever killed you.
That's really good.
And like through, I think my current one has 3,600 haste for 10 seconds.
Jesus. All right. Seems pretty dope.
Like the only thing I don't think it has main stat on it. I think that's the
Mhm.
only flaw with this trinket. Oh no, I'm wrong. It does.
Perfect trinket.
Like the
Perfect
previous
trinket.
ones we've had were all like, oh, you get a cheat death, but it's got downsides. Like it would have stamina on it, or it would
Yeah.
have like the Kael'thas one where it would kill your raid. It
Yeah.
would do friendly fire damage, or the unusable one from Fate Scribe that they had to change because you would actually die and then be able to
Yeah.
use it. But of course, when you die, it's already over. Like
Yeah.
you're done.
Yeah.
Fight's over.
You lose everything. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, it's and just like, did we even have one in BFA? We might not have even had a cheat death in
I don't
BFA.
think we did. Although I'm the worst person to ask. I don't
Yeah, I don't
remember
think we
anything
had
other
a cheat
than
death in BFA. I can't remember one. If we did, it was terrible. And then in Legion, Daggerhaft was a meme. That one barely worked. And when I say barely worked, I mean you sometimes just died, even
yeah,
though it
yeah.
was up and available. So nobody used it because you could just die anyway.
God. That's awesome. That's awesome. Um that's wild. Yeah. I haven't I mean, hats off to Blizzard making good trinkets. That's solid. We so you're playing Blood this tier. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I'm on
Okay.
Blood DK. I'm a little bit conflicted still because like tank damage is raid damage,
Yeah.
and blood does less than
Yeah.
other options. That's actually one of the things I was looking at. Is Prop Paladin. Prop Paladin is very, I would say, very skill testing in terms of how
Hmm.
it plays defensively. You have to be able to, you have to be good at rolling your cooldowns
Yeah.
to live. But if you can, holy shit, is it strong? I
Nice.
was okay. So we jumped in on Tuesday. We're doing keys. People are at like 15s, right?
Hmm.
And I hop in my 425 Paladin because I didn't play it last year, and it's
Nice.
fine.
Just crushing. That's awesome.
Just like timing keys. Like
That is
I probably
awesome.
have a timed key on my Paladin where I am eye level like 425. It's just like an 18 key.
That is awesome.
And
That
some of
is
that is
awesome.
like it only works if people are killing stuff fast enough that your cooldowns don't run out, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
So I don't know that I would have been able to do that in Pugs, but we were doing it.
So cool. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
fun times, fun times. Um,
Nice. Well, I think maybe a
Back
couple
on
more
topic
things just
though.
on, yeah, a couple more, just on Mythic Plus stuff. They did add, I don't know if they did add a portal room this time instead of like
Yeah.
having random portals around.
Yep.
So I did want to say just real quick, I think it's super cool. I kind of hope that this is the way they handle, like if they're going to continue with this whole like Mythic Plus where like half the dungeons are older dungeons and half are from current content. They do sort of a room because I will say the old portals, like it was annoying because they had what last season was like they had the three that they typically have, but
Yeah.
then there was that fourth one for like what was it? Not Blasted Lands, but
Uldaman.
Alderaan. Yeah, that was like
Yeah.
out in the corner, like
Yeah.
randomly in the middle.
And
I didn't know that existed.
that one actually is just like a permanent portal. It's not part of the season.
Oh, is it not? Okay.
Yeah,
I thought it
it's
was.
for questing. Like there are quests that send you there.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize
Um,
that.
and so I guess they were just like, oh, we already have this portal. We don't need to add another one. And then nobody could ever find it.
I didn't know about it for the longest time, I'll say. So, but
I
yeah, no, that was
I definitely like the first couple weeks flew out there repeatedly before somebody told me about the portal.
I also did that 100%. So,
Uh,
um, well, cool. I think that basically, I mean, we'll definitely be talking more about our progress, I think, every week. And sort of the
yeah,
race looks to be, I mean, I don't know, just to close the loop on this one. I mean, Liquid just Vantised, or not just, but they Vantised whatever the boss they're on now,
Tindril.
Tindril.
Yeah.
Tindril. So that to me, that basically sends a signal that Fyrak lives through reset. So
Oh yeah, I see
we,
no shot. Like where they
yeah,
are on Tindril. Like let's just like I'm gonna
oh,
people can make fun of the fact that like every time we do one of these podcasts, like they kill the final boss the next day before you even
yeah,
get the podcast uploaded. It's
yeah, exactly.
um
Yeah, I don't see that happening this
the
time.
best on Tindril currently is Liquid having gotten through intermission 2, which is a Dragonriding phase,
Hmm.
uh, and 63%.
Yeah, so they have so high. I feel like,
That is so high.
yeah, because that's through intermission two.
Yeah.
I guess there isn't a fourth platform, right? It's still the three
No.
platforms. Yeah.
You just like you loop through the mechanics of the third platform over and over. And I actually don't even like. Can we see how long that pull, like their pull was to get to that point? Let me see.
I don't know if we can.
Do summary best pull. That was a 3 minute 50-second pull.
Jesus.
So, and they're like 1/3 of the way through it. So, unless this is supposed to be a 13-minute fight,
Yeah, there's got to be something they're missing. That's
uh,
wild.
yeah,
That's wild. But yeah, no, I think we'll see this race go to reset, get a reset of gear, and then it probably falls over. But
we'll
yeah,
see. We will
it's been
see.
yeah.
There's American Thanksgiving next week that they have to contend with.
Yeah, Thursday. So basically Wednesday night they gotta be wrapped up or they're gonna hit Thanksgiving. Everybody's gonna be off. So um but cool. No, I think we'll see how the race goes. It's been, I mean, Liquid, it's still Liquid and Echo right now. Method though did kill Smolderon earlier, so like they're also doing some
Yep.
Tindril stuff. So Method is solid third place. I think it's cool for them. So but yeah, we'll see how the rest of the race goes. Hopefully they don't kill Fyrak tomorrow before you upload this. Hopefully we're
I
not too
mean,
far
if
off.
they
So
do, it will be one of the fastest end boss progs ever.
it'd be another Xavius, right? It'd be like a
Yeah,
Xavius type boss, which I
yeah.
don't think
Which
Fyrak is. So
they would have to find a way to cheese Fire and kill it before they like Blizzard realized.
yeah, exactly.
Like the Zoth tier, like if you do this thing, the boss just doesn't do any more mechanics, and you can just
Exactly.
DPS it.
You just win. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But cool. All right. Well, that was our sort of progression thing. We're gonna maybe switch back. There was a couple of news stories that came out that I wanted to go through real
Yep.
quick. Just talked about a couple of things that old BlizzRad has done. So first up is Blizzard came out with a new restriction on buying tokens, which basically is that if you not used real money to purchase game time, since 2017, you are not allowed to purchase a token. Essentially, so what this sort of I think is aiming to curb is because 2017 is really like that's what 5, 6 years ago.
It was 6 years
Uh,
ago. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, the idea is essentially like this to me seems like something to curb a lot of the gold selling that's happening or the bot accounts where like what I look at this, what I'm seeing is basically like a bunch of people create bot accounts for free and start maybe with like a single account with gold on it, and then basically the first like token worth of gold they collect or they farm up, they send to another account, and then that account has game time for whenever their main account gets banned, and then they can like move on to the next account. So they never actually spend money opening up accounts on Blizzard beyond maybe like the initial like license, right?
Can
It's all
you
just
can turn tokens into BNet balance and buy game licenses with BNet
that is
balance.
actually true. Yeah. So now it's like, yeah, so it's super easy. I didn't even think about that. I was just thinking of the game time aspect of it. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. So I mean, like, yeah, so this basically sort of essentially a lot like tries to limit botters from being able to spot gold to keep their operation running and then
Yeah.
also selling that gold essentially. Um, good change. It honestly affects probably almost zero people who are legitimately
Yeah.
doing this.
There's a couple people
Um,
in my guild that like I wouldn't be surprised if they actually hadn't spent money on the game since 2017. Like the people
wow.
who, came out of WoD with tens of millions of gold from the garrisons
That's true.
and
That's true.
then transitioned into doing sales and stuff pretty heavily while the sales communities were big in Legion and BFA, coming out
Hmm.
with tens of millions more gold.
Yeah,
And then, if you have that, you could just like pay your sub forever.
that is true. Yeah. Yeah, because
Um,
token prices for a while were like 100K. So
yeah.
yeah, you come out of, yeah, Legion. That's, yeah, it's only a
Um,
million gold to play for a year, which is wild. So,
yeah. So that's like, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a few people that like you and I actually know that this
hmm,
affects. But like the solution for them is just to like pay
spend
fifteen
15 bucks.
dollars on a
Yeah.
month subscription. Or I actually wonder if it counts like buying an expansion with money.
Oh, it might. Yeah,
Because
you're right.
like the WoW token to BNet balance conversion is worse than the WoW token to game time conversion. So like I wonder if you
Yeah.
bought, it with money, you could use it. But
That,
who
yeah.
knows? I think there are going to be, like I said, a couple people that are legit that get caught up in this just because of stuff like the WoD garrisons and sales.
Hmm.
But like, if you can't spend $15 on it every 7 years,
Yeah.
it's it's just
Come
like
on,
it's
guys.
kind of like
You're playing the game enough. If you're making enough gold to pay for your sub for that long,
yeah.
you probably owe Blizzard at least $15 for the enjoyment and entertainment. So no, yeah. But yeah, sort of restriction coming in. This starts November 21st. So on Tuesday this week, so it'll come in. So um, cool. And then a couple of like interviews. These are believe are either post or during, or they're during BlizzCon interviews that came out. But a couple of just highlights from them. So one is Preach sat down with old Ion or Ian, as we like to call him, just to sort of, yeah, I think it's an interview. It was a very interesting interview. It wasn't sort of a typical sort of like Blizzard. Oh, what are you excited about, functionality wise, or what's out there? It was more sort of a like almost like a personal type interview about like
Yeah.
some like philosophical stuff. So it's a really quick read. I think it was only like a 20-minute video. But I think the biggest thing to come out of this is like I think Ian sort of mentioned that like this expansion and then going like it's currently Dragonflight and then going into the War Within and sort of the next sort of World Soul Saga, right? He sort of talked about Blizzard like letting go of old stubbornness,
Yeah.
um, he gave a really interesting point, which I think is interesting to people to keep in mind. Is like Ian, if people aren't aware, started at World of Warcraft, I believe, in Burning Crusade, like as a like a developer on the team, and sort of slowly rose through the ranks from there, through every expansion. So he was around, and a lot of his early like discussions on how to design the game and like talk about the game were from the people that built the original World of Warcraft, right?
Right.
And so like I think he mentioned that as he's become game developer, he sort of looked back on that feedback and those experiences, said these are the tent poles of what Warcraft is.
Yeah.
And I think Ian probably is maybe not the main source of a lot of the stubbornness in Blizzard, but as game director, he's owed something in terms of his philosophy to the rest of the team.
Right.
where they didn't want to change certain things, like warbands, big thing that he talked about. Like he is notorious for saying like you play a character and your character is your progression and like not an
Yeah.
account of characters. So yeah, it was an interesting interview, like talking about like, hey, we're gonna pull back, like reevaluate what makes an MMO in today's world. And like he used the term letting go of old stubbornness, which I think is pretty cool. So we'll see. He talked about that starting sort of mid Shadowlands, which is where the Covenant changes, I think, really started to come into play, right? And all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, there's that. And they also talked too about like you trying to get to, 18-month expansions with the larger team, which that was the second part of the news that we had is they did a Forbes interview.
Yeah.
Um,
Or no, this
which
one's
sort of talked about.
a Bloomberg interview, right?
Oh, Bloomberg. Sorry, I thought it was
Yeah.
Forbes. Yeah, Bloomberg. But with John Haidt and Holly Longdale, so the general manager and executive producers of Warcraft, so not just Classic, but all of Warcraft, talking about like, yeah, they've got tons of brand new teams, right? Larger development teams, basically running 3 games in like sort of the MMO Warcraft universe. So, but yeah, basically said like with all the new people that they've been able to hire, new studios that they brought in, um, yeah, they've gotten a large enough team now where they feel comfortable with this sort of cadence of potentially getting to 18-month expansions, at least for retail, and then still doing season discovery stuff in Classic and like
Yeah.
pushing, Cataclysm Classic from like that perspective.
Which
So
like Season of Discovery feels a little bit like faded content from
yeah,
Shadowlands, right? Where it was like a small group of people driving that forward,
hmm
using existing assets and just like repurposing it for new ends. Um, the I a little bit of like a historical note in Legion. The patch cycle that they kind of settled on was an 11-week patch cycle, kind of an
hmm
oddball one, not exactly at the end of the month, right? But 11 weeks is more or less what it boiled down to. If you look at the patches, the initial launch patch, the patch with Trial of Valor, the patch with Nighthold, the patch in between with the Mage Tower, then Tomb of Sargeras, and so on, and you get 11 weeks per.
hmm
Um, and they never hit that again.
yeah,
Like, BFA was not even close. Um, and
yep,
Shadowlands was a disaster.
yeah.
Um, so Dragonflight, though, I think every 8 weeks, like clockwork, we have had
They've
some
had
kind of
something.
major or minor patch for Dragonflight.
Yeah, yeah, which they've been really good at it. And so we'll see if like Blizzard has had a history of like that problem because they had the same like the Legion's a really good example of Legion. I think was like that because they had so much time to create Legion because they
Yeah.
stopped WoD so early,
Yes.
right? And so like they were able to leverage a lot of that extra time that they sort of had from stopping WoD to then turn into Legion, and then Legion was great, and then you see like them kind of losing it in BFA and then it falling off the rails in Shadowlands where
Yeah.
like they just couldn't keep up with the cadence. So
Shadowlands does also have the like that's the
like
development
the
of Shadowlands is
COVID,
where
yeah,
where COVID happened and they had to switch to work from home and everything. So like there's some amount of like grace we can give them for that one, but also like
maybe,
BFA was already behind. They
yeah.
weren't exactly coming from a position of strength there.
Yeah. No, yeah, that is true. So, no, I mean, I hope they hit it. I mean, there's a ton of cool Warcraft stuff coming out. I'm excited for Season Discovery, at least to mess around a little bit. So, um, yeah, I think it's cool. Um, and then the only other final news piece before we get into 10.2.5 was actually something I wanted to talk about during the BlizzCon stuff, but I don't think we didn't get to it. So this actually comes from one of the BlizzCon interviews with Morgan Day, my boy, and one of the game producers, George Velov, I believe is how you pronounce his last name, but George. And this is specifically on Mythic Plus, where they basically come out and say that essentially Blizzard, I think, moving forward with Mythic Plus is going to put less emphasis on affixes and more on the dungeons themselves, which I think is an interesting way of doing it because they've already talked about like this season there is no is there a seasonal fix? Yeah,
No,
there's no seasonal fix
there's no
this
seasonal
year.
fix. Yeah.
Sorry. So there's no seasonal fix here, and so with Blizzard sort of going back and pulling in, which we would assume will continue into War Within, which is 4 dungeons in season 1 of Mythic Plus from the current expansion, and then 4 from past expansions. If they continue that, I think it's a fine way to do that. I think there's going to be some affixes where they continue to maybe tune it a little bit so it doesn't become stale. But if their goal is to to like make the dungeons be the focal point and not the actual affixes, then I think it's cool. I mean, I think they talk about this too. Like they've redesigned a ton of Throne of Tides, which I was doing Throne of Tides blind the first time. I was like, it's missing some packs here. Like the
Yeah.
Gauntlet's missing a pack. The
It's
run up.
it's not just a gauntlet missing a pack. There's a missing gauntlet.
Oh yeah, that's true. It's not a gauntlet anymore. That's right. They're missing the run back now has eels that slam that you have to dodge and you run back from I guess
Yeah.
it's the second boss to back down. Um
I
yeah,
feel
so
like
I
there
mean
used to
it's
be new trash there too that spawned after you like killed the first boss,
yeah.
and
Now it's just a run
that's
back.
gone. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
The
like I
elevator's
could be
gone, of course.
misremembering that. It's been a long time since I've done Throne of Tides. Like
Yeah.
so yeah. The on the affixes note, I think this is a really interesting week to be talking about like reducing the emphasis on affixes. The setup this week for those that haven't done keys yet is fortified, sanguine, and incorporeal.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually fortified you get immediately, then you get incorporeal at like 7, and then at
Yep.
11 you get sanguine, something
Sanguine.
like that. And incorporeal I think is an affix that really has come into its own now that they've really fixed a lot of the early issues with it, and especially let you mind control it. Like
Yeah.
the number of specs being able like just mind control it, and now it's a benefit for your group. Like obviously priests can do it, death knights can do it, and it's just
Mhm.
like a nice little thing that lets you turn, like right now in Dawn of the Infinite, right in Galakon's Fall, there's the packs that just destroy the group with raid wide damage,
That's right.
and
Yeah.
having an incorporeal spawn is almost like oh yes, we can mind control this, and now this pack is going to do 10% less damage to us
Yeah.
by playing around that affix. And that's yeah, we still have to deal with it. We have to take time and deal with it. It costs GCDs, it costs actual physical casts, um, but it feels a lot better
Hmm.
than a lot of the previous affixes. And speaking of a very old affix, one of the what's it original? I feel like it's an original affix.
Sanguine? Yeah.
Sanguine.
Yeah, it is. Yep.
They made two key changes to it
Oh,
that
they're
I
so good,
think
by the way. I
make
love
it
them.
a lot better. Like it's gotten nerfed heavily over the years. Like going back to Waycrest Manor with Sanguine again has been an experience. Um, but
Yeah.
there's two changes. One, the duration got reduced again,
Yeah.
but they also made it so it no longer stacks. So
That's the biggest
previously,
one.
yeah,
Yeah.
previously if you had like a big lieutenant mob surrounded by like a bunch of small dudes and all the small dudes died and the lieutenant happened to just not move out of it instantly, 2.5% HP back for every small dude that died. So if there's like, 5 around it, it
Yeah.
gets 12.5% back every second.
Which is massive. Yeah.
And it really has taken it from being one where like a mistake feels like you just wiped your key, right? Like
Mhm.
if you're fighting, Matron Altma, who does that stupid Thorns cast just like all the time. It is a real pain to make move ever.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and you happen to have pulled dogs onto her and like killed the dogs. In BFA, she would be full health, and you just like would have to wait a long time for the sanguine to go away before
Yeah.
you could actually damage her again. Now it's like a DPS tax. You still don't want to do it. Like you very much do not want to let mobs sit in sanguine still.
Right.
Um, but it's doesn't feel like you've just thrown away your keystone if it happens.
Exactly.
Like
Yeah, I mean,
you can out DPS it.
you can do that. I mean, like even like the duration of it's so much lower,
Yeah.
which is awesome. The fact it doesn't stack makes it like easy. And like for me as a healer, like doing a way crest this season and happen to be sanguine, um, it feels like you're not. It feels again less punishing, which I think is good, but also like it also seems a little fair too, where
Yeah.
like, hey, if you don't move the mobs, of course they're gonna heal. That makes sense, right? Or if you like pull a bunch of little ads and you happen to like kite them in a huge line and you drag the big ad all the way through that line, like of course it's gonna get healed up because like you're just playing poorly. Um, but yeah, it doesn't seem like as awful when it like used to be permanent, when they used to stack, where you're just in Waycrest, you're trying to pull as much as you can, you just have like literal just sanguine puddles everywhere and you have nowhere to move and it's just yeah, it becomes an issue. So
Yeah.
no, I think it's to be fair, like doing Waycrest, other than the only thing that bothers me about Waycrest is I don't know if you've gotten this bug where like if you zone in before like the second to last boss immediately because someone didn't like reset the end, like not even didn't reset it. It's like I think there's just a bug where you can like zone in down there. And the doors upstairs are locked, so you can't get out. So you have to like perk back, and then I got it twice doing Waycrest.
That's wild.
Yeah,
We
it was awful.
you can still pull things through the floor. We had one run where we were out in the courtyard. The courtyard is the worst place for this.
Hmm.
But we managed to in that run pull stuff from the basement while in the courtyard.
Okay, it's not good.
Great time. We were at like 150% on this run, by the way,
Nice.
because pulling the entire basement, not exactly part of the plan, but then we went out into the pig area and we're clearing that.
Okay.
Did you know there's mobs above that?
No, I didn't. Above the pig area?
Yeah,
No, really? On
yeah,
the second floor?
yeah.
Did not know that. No, nope, didn't know that.
Did you know they also give literally 0%?
No, that's awesome though. That's hilarious.
So they got pulled from like we were below them. They got pulled. They ran around. They pulled a bunch of other trash to us.
Gotcha.
We killed it, and half of it just didn't give any percent.
That is awesome. That's hilarious.
So yeah.
Jesus, that sucks. That we didn't. Luckily, we've not pulled anything through floors, so we didn't get hit that in Waycrest. But yeah, no, it's been I mean, the Mythic Plus in general has been fun, but yeah, the affixes seem. It's good that I think the focus will be on dungeons going back because like going back to Everbloom has been interesting. I forget how hard like the mage mobs hit before the second to
Yeah.
last boss. Like that was an experience the first time in there. So even that boss right before that with the trio boss, a lot of a lot of AoE damage on the group there, which I wasn't
Yeah.
expecting. So but no, it seems pretty cool. So um but yeah, so that's sort of I think the wrap up of news. The other thing that came out this week, which I don't know how much, we only have about what 10 minutes left here, is they did announce 10.25. So they put out their announcement of 10.25. Bunch of stuff in it. I think maybe we can hit the highlights because there's a couple of interesting things we'll say. So we talked about this, I think, last time, but 10.25 brings in Dragonriding everywhere. So Dragonriding will be all over the place, which is cool. It also brings back something called Azerothian Archives, which I don't actually know what this is. I think it's like public events.
I don't
I,
actually
I
know what
didn't,
that one is.
I didn't really. I think
Oh yeah,
based on the.
it's a public event, weekly public
Okay,
event.
cool.
Okay.
So their version of public events coming in. There's additional story for Gilneas if you care. But the let me go skip that. So the next one, sorry, is Dragonflight Follower Dungeons, which I think is the most interesting one.
Yeah.
And then Dragon Isle Epilogues, which is like
Just story wrap
additional
up.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But if we want to take a minute, maybe just talk about the follower dungeons.
Yeah.
So this is a really cool concept. It essentially uses the tech. If you've ever done the new starting zone, which is called, I don't remember.
Exile's Reach.
Exile's Reach, thank you. The final step of Exile's Reach is to do a dungeon. You do a dungeon with 4 NPCs that look like party members to you. And so what they've done is essentially taken that tech and now they've applied it to all of the Dragonflight dungeons. And you can do those as follower dungeons where you can go in with a party of computer players, and you can do it with 4 NPCs while you solo yourself. It seems really interesting. It seems like a sort of what they've been. You can start to see a theme here from Blizzard of like basically essentially like allowing solo players to still participate in content.
Yeah.
Which I think is an interesting way to get people into the game. Because it's funny. I was talking about this. This is sort of a larger, maybe meta sort of conversation, but talking to some of my friends who, a lot of the people that I play games with now, I started playing games with in World of Warcraft, right? Like that was the first game that we played online, and had what 15 or 18, 19 years later, we still sort of play games together, the core group of us. But we haven't made many like new friends like in games since then. Right. Like, and even when I play games today, like a lot of the games that you play are like, if you into like battle royales, it's like drop in, drop out. Maybe you yell at your teammates for the 20 minutes you're in the match, and that's it. It's not really like a long standing thing. And even then, like, Destiny 2, which I played a ton of, like, a lot of it's sort of drop in, drop out type stuff.
Yeah.
And so there's not a lot of like group play. And I think this gives people maybe, and sometimes people think that sort of group play is somewhat toxic, which I think rightly so. I think in a lot of cases it can be. To be fair, in leveling dungeons and WoW, I don't think I've seen it that much. But I mean, to be fair, I haven't leveled in a dungeon in a couple years. Um, but yeah, this is a cool way I think to allow like solo players once you get to max level, if you like level out in the world, don't do dungeons, to actually see some of this dungeon content and maybe like it sort of sparks that itch of like, okay, now I want to try this with real people. I want to try this on a harder mode where I have to talk
Yeah.
to someone.
Yeah.
So a way to like get people to continue playing the game, but it's cool.
There's
I'm all for it.
So I think there's a couple of interesting elements to this. One is that we have the zone kind of end cap quests, where you need to go into the dungeon. They reward a ton of experience, a really good piece of loot for where you are in leveling, and one of the issues is that you have to sit there in the dungeon queue, and people on those quests have a priority in the queue for those dungeons. So if you just individually queue for that dungeon, you have priority over other people to get in it so you can complete your quest. But even with that, like if you're a DPS player playing at weird hours, it can still be a pretty substantial queue time to get a group together. So there's that element of it. Like this gives you a way to just as a solo player complete those quests. It also allows them to actually, right now how they're structured is they're optional. You get through Onar and Plains, you get to the Noku defensive story quest, and the dungeon to actually wrap things up is optional, which is a little weird, but it is because of the queue time stuff. They don't want you to have to literally sit there for 20 minutes before you can progress the story. Final Fantasy, of course, bring it up. Final Fantasy introduced this thing that they called trust dungeons, where you have NPC followers that do the dungeon with you. They are the major characters from their storyline, which is not the case here. These are just randos, but I wouldn't be surprised to see that change in The War Within. And they have, part of the reason they did that is that their dungeons are on the critical path. You have to complete the dungeon to continue the story quests. Now they've got some other stuff to make that more incentivized, like the fact that you can get basically flight stones, the equivalent of flight stones from doing what's called a duty roulette, of just like queuing into a random dungeon from any expansion to help people get through story quests. And WoW doesn't have anything like that to help people get through those. Follower dungeons, I wouldn't actually be surprised to see this be a precursor to in War Within. Dungeons being on the critical path, you have to complete the dungeon to continue the story quest, and you can either do it with a group or you can do it with followers. The other interesting thing here is that this is basically making normal dungeons flex content, because this is an improvement over how Final Fantasy does theirs. Final Fantasy, you can only go in solo. If you use the trust system, you can only go in solo. With the follower dungeon system that's coming in 10.2.5, you can go in with between 1 and 4 players. If you go in with 5, obviously you're not using followers anymore, because it's a 5-person group. But 1 to 4 players, which does mean that like if you are playing with your significant other and you just want to play together and you don't want to deal with a group, you can actually do that.
It's pretty good.
So yeah, this is, on the whole, I think this is a good change. I think that this is a change that a lot of people look at and they're like, why? Right? Like, they're already optional. You already don't have to do them. If you don't want a group, you don't need to do this content. But at the same time, making it accessible to people that maybe don't want to queue with randos, that want to play multiplayer with their friends, but they've only got 2 people that are playing WoW with them and they can't do a dungeon like that. Or maybe you've got 2 friends and you're all 3 DPS,
Exactly. Yeah.
You can do this. So
no, I think I agree with everything you said. I think it's really fun. I think a really cool thing that they're adding. And yeah, I mean, to be fair, I don't know if, I'll be honest, I don't know if I'll ever actually do a follower dungeon.
Yeah.
But if they're mandatory, yes.
Breckenhide Hollow. Getting to the
That's true.
stupid altar of decay for crafting.
Oh yeah, true. Um, yeah, no, yeah, that's I guess that's right. It would be good for that. But no, I mean, it's a really interesting feature, like something that wasn't, again, I think we've said this a couple times, like this podcast, not on my bingo card for something like I think they'd even
Yeah.
extend beyond like what it's used for today. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And of course with 10.2.5, I think the other big thing is we will see some level of class changes. Monk's got a couple already. Um, oh, that reminds me. Sorry, within the last, I know we're sort of at time at this point, but one thing what did come up for Mistweaver this week in live, so not in 10.2.5. I forgot to bring this in the notes.
Oh,
There was one bug fix, we'll say, to Essence Font. So previously, Essence Font was changed at the start of 10.2 to only fire 5 bolts per second. So previously it was fires up to 6 bolts, basically 3 times. So you got 18 total bolts.
right.
What they changed is they changed it to only 5 bolts per second, but they kept it at 18 total bolts. So you basically got 5, 5, 5, 3.
Okay.
So you got a random extra, essentially 3 bolts. So they've essentially removed those 3 bolts from the calculation. Now it's only 5, 5, 5. So you lose 2 bolts, cast time remains the same, slight, let's say, overall healing loss, but sort of makes it more intuitive into why the spell is like that.
Yeah.
And I think
Okay.
the main reason they did that, we're talking internally, but main reason is basically it's a Mythic Plus change for the most part. Because previously were you losing 1 bolt anyway every time you channeled it, didn't really make sense. So this just sort of trues it all up. So,
Gotcha.
but yeah, that was the one mystery change from last week that I forgot to mention. So sorry.
Yeah. Speaking of changes, there were slight buffs to the Brewmaster tier set that we forgot to bring up last week. Not really significant, like 2%. I just like
Gotcha.
it happened.
Minor. Fair enough. Fair
Yeah.
enough.
I will say, like, I'm playing Blood this tier. I'm gonna miss doing so much damage. Like, my monk sims for almost 110k in last
wow.
year's gear.
Jesus. That's
Um,
wild.
my DK sims for 85.
Not as wild.
Not as wild. I also can't hit those numbers yet. Like, I have a Kazara log where I did 108k.
Gotcha.
Every beacon crit, but I hit 108k.
Nice.
My DK is not doing those numbers, so I gotta work on that too.
Fair enough.
But yeah.
Awesome.
That is, I think, gonna be it for the show today. Thank you all for watching and or listening. And if you enjoyed this podcast and you want to support it and the other work that we do over on the Peak of Serenity. Wow, I cannot talk. You can do that over at our Patreon at patreon.com/Peak of Serenity. And of course, come and join the Discord. It is the best way to keep up with the state of the art and, share tips and tricks about the new slate of dungeons that we've got, like how to do the Throne of the Tides gauntlet successfully.
Without dying 30 times.
Spoiler, take it slow, use line of sight.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. Also, standing in the water spawns more dudes. Don't do that.
The more you know.
More you know. But yeah, that's gonna be it for the show today. Thank you all for watching and or listening, and we will see you next week.
Bye.